Okay, let's dive right into this. If you've walked down a store aisle recently, you've probably noticed that almost everything claims to be green. But get this, 90% of packaging labeled eco-friendly is actually misleading you. Now, it's not always illegal and it's not always a flat-out lie, but it is very often not what you think it means. Words like biodegradable, compostable, and recyclable sound incredibly responsible, but in reality, they're often used to sell a perception rather than the truth. So today, in this explainer, we are breaking down 5 packaging labels that confuse almost everyone and what they actually mean for your business.
That staggering 90% figure? Yeah, that is a huge wake-up call. For businesses, choosing the wrong label isn't just some minor innocent mistake, it can severely damage your credibility. So, we're going to completely decode these terms so you know exactly what you're dealing with.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the greenwashing trap, the biodegradable illusion, the compostable catch, the recyclable reality, vague and hidden plastics, and finally, smarter, sustainable packaging. Let's get to it.
Section 1. The greenwashing trap.
If you're a business owner, listen up, because this isn't just about sustainability. It's about customer trust, your brand positioning, and avoiding some incredibly costly mistakes. Because choosing the wrong packaging label can make your product look eco-friendly on the surface while actually destroying your credibility through greenwashing. And regulators like the FTC, they are cracking down on this hard. You absolutely want to avoid these mistakes.
Section 2. The biodegradable illusion. This is arguably the most misunderstood term on the market today. You know, when most of us see the word biodegradable, we get this warm, fuzzy feeling, right? The expectation is that if you drop it on the ground, it just melts away quickly and safely into nature. But the scientific reality? It's much harsher. Technically speaking, almost everything is biodegradable given enough centuries, even conventional plastic. And worse, if these biodegradable plastics end up in a landfill without oxygen, they don't just harmlessly disappear. They produce methane, which is a greenhouse gas 80 times more potent than CO2 over a 20-year period. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The massive gap between how the government defines this and how marketers actually use it. The FTC's green guides require that for an unqualified biodegradable claim, the item has to completely break down and return to nature within 1 year of customary disposal. Yet, most biodegradable packaging on the market has zero defined time limits or toxicity testing. Without specific conditions like intense industrial heat, a lot of these biodegradable plastics behave exactly like regular old plastic.
So how do we spot the real deal? You need to empower yourself with a checklist. Whenever you see biodegradable, check for 3 things: a specific time frame of decomposition, the exact environmental conditions required for it to actually break down, and relevant third-party testing standards. If you don't see those, you're probably looking at vague marketing, not a true environmental solution.
Section 3. The compostable catch.
Now, compostable sounds even better than biodegradable, right? Like the ultimate, perfect solution. But here is the catch, and it trips up so many well-meaning brands. The expectation is that you can just toss a compostable cup into your standard backyard bin and it'll magically turn into soil. But the reality? While all compostable items are biodegradable, almost none of the compostable packaging you buy belongs in your backyard. Most of it requires a highly specialized industrial facility to break down.
And this brilliantly illustrates why. It all comes down to temperature. Industrial compostable packaging needs intense, sustained heat. We're talking between 130 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit to actually decompose. That kind of heat simply does not exist in nature or in a normal landfill or in your garden bin. If an industrial compostable cup ends up in a regular landfill, it basically acts just like a plastic cup. And the kicker, in a lot of regions, those specialized commercial facilities don't even exist yet.
The absolute crucial takeaway here is that you cannot just trust the word compostable slapped on a box. You've got to look for regulated certifications. In North America, you're looking for the BPI certification. Internationally, check for TUV OK Compost or the AS 4736 standards. And if you actually intend to throw it in your garden, it must explicitly say home compostable. Without those marks, the claim is pretty much meaningless.
Section 4. The recyclable reality. We have all been trained to look for this label, and it feels so safe, doesn't it? But brace yourself for some data-driven shock, because the system is deeply flawed. When we look at where plastic waste actually goes, the true recycling rate for plastics in the US is estimated to be a dismal 5 to 9%. Let's call it 7% on average. That means a massive 93% of plastic waste is landfilled, incinerated, or just leaked into the environment. Just because something can be recycled does not mean it actually gets recycled.
Which leads us to a huge misconception. We see this chasing arrow symbol on a bottle, and we instantly think, awesome, this is definitely getting recycled. But no, that symbol actually just identifies the plastic resin code. It just tells you what type of plastic it is. It is not a guarantee of recycling. Take a multi-layer flexible plastic pouch, for instance. It might have that symbol, but if you toss it in your curbside bin, most municipal systems literally cannot process it. It'll just jam up their sorting equipment and go straight to the landfill anyway.
To navigate this one, you have to check the reality of your local infrastructure. Is this material widely accepted in your specific town's recycling program? Is the packaging a monomaterial, meaning it's made of just one single type of plastic, or is it a messy, hard-to-recycle, multi-layer situation? Generally speaking, you want to stick to widely recycled resins, like number 1 PET or number 2 HDPE. Always remember, recyclable does not equal recycled.
Section 5. Vague and hidden plastics.
Labels like plastic-free sound so absolute, don't they? But a lot of the time, it's only partially true. A package might have paper on the outside, but rely on a hidden plastic lining on the inside just to prevent leaking. And another prime example of this is the oxo-degradable trap. You see oxo-biodegradable and think it's fantastic, but actually it starts with a conventional plastic base, then mix in some chemical additives, and over time, it just becomes brittle. It doesn't magically return to nature. It just fragments into thousands of invisible microplastics by design. It's a classic greenwashing trap.
And this brings us to the most vague, slippery label of them all, eco-friendly or green. There is literally no strict legal definition for these terms. And if you need proof that relying on them is risky, just look at the FTC Green Guides. They explicitly warn marketers not to make these broad, unqualified claims because they are nearly impossible to substantiate. Eco-friendly could mean anything. It could mean a slightly thinner bottle, a tiny fraction of recycled content, or just being barely better than last year's version. It is a highly dangerous legal gray area.
Section 6. Smarter, sustainable packaging.
So, instead of trusting these labels blindly, what should businesses actually do? Here is your action plan. Number 1, move toward easy-to-recycle monomaterials. Number 2, verify that the actual disposal infrastructure exists in the exact regions where you sell your product. Number 3, stop relying on clever marketing copy and demand trusted third-party marks, like BPI for compostables or FSC for paper. And finally, conduct a life cycle assessment, an LCA, to truly evaluate your product's environmental journey from raw material all the way to the trash can.
Which brings us to a final, provocative question to leave you with. Take a hard look at the products you sell, or even just the products you buy. Is your current packaging a liability in disguise? The next time you see biodegradable, compostable, recyclable, or eco-friendly printed on a box, don't just read the label. Actually understand the system behind it. Demand the certifications, audit your supply chain, and make choices that are genuinely sustainable. Because let's be honest, true sustainability isn't about the perception you sell, it's about the reality you leave behind.